Hello, good Erev Shabbos. Parshat Shemini enumerates the various species within the vast zoological universe, and it warns us regarding the Shemini kashrut, whether split hooves, chewing your cud by animals, fins and scales for fish, or a long list of predatory and other non-kosher birds. And the Parsha closes out with the prohibition against eating shiratzim, eating bugs. It's coarse on the ears. It's hard to hear these words in repetitive fashion. Whatever walks on the stomach, or walks on four legs, or many legs. Do not make your souls repulsive. And do not become defiled, and in them you will become defiled. A quick glance back at the earlier verses regarding the other species that are singled out as not being kosher. The verses describe all those things as being tamei, as being impure. When it comes to the sheretz, when it comes to the bug, it's not only described as tamei, as tmeim, as impure, but also as morally repugnant. Do not repulse your soul. Do not become a person. Al tishaksu et nafshotechem. Do not yourself become repugnant. This past week I heard Dennis Prager argue that it is forbidden, when something is forbidden as a sin in the Torah, it isn't necessarily evil. For instance, he said, it may not be evil to violate the Sabbath, but it is nonetheless a sin. And this doesn't seem to be the case when it comes to kashrus, in particular when it comes to the prohibition of eating shiratzim, eating bugs. For it's described as morally repugnant, not just a sinful and wrong act, but a fundamentally flawed act. And it's somewhat surprising that a person who eats bugs is morally inferior to someone who is careful to triple wash his lettuce. Why would it make a difference? I understand the Torah doesn't want you doing it. I understand you're not a great Jew if you violate the mitzvah. But why are you a flawed individual? Rabbeinu Bachaya has an interesting, albeit technical, observation on the verse we cited above. The pasuk says, "V'nitmeisem bam." Nitmeisem is missing an aleph. Tamei is with an aleph, tet, mem, aleph. This says nitmeisem, nun, tet, mem, taf, mem. And he says the word is missing an aleph, and therefore it doesn't just represent tuma, impurity, but timtum halev, a spiritual malady, a spiritual defilement, not a legal violation, but a moral deficiency. He explains that with the aleph missing from the word, the implication is that God is missing from the person's life, that the Shekhinah has somehow departed from the person who is enmeshed within the sin. And he adds an interesting remark. The Hebrew language, the Lashon HaKodesh, is so sensitive to nuance that even one missing letter can change the meaning of the sentence in a profound way. Think about the word kadosh. Kadosh normally means holy. It implies that someone is holy and has been designated and even singled out for a cause of holiness. But a slight change in the lettering, and you don't have kadosh, you have a kedesha, a person who is singled out and set aside for an immoral act, for other forms of behavior. Rabbeinu Bachai explains, "V'lo titamu bahem v'nitmeisem bam." A person who makes one slight decision to move towards impurity, it can cause great impurity to befall that very person. In the words of Rabbeinu Bachai, "Adam metame atzmo me'at, metaminoto harbe." If a person takes one step to defile himself, he becomes exceedingly impure. But why is this lesson taught specifically by shiratzim? Allow me to share with you a thought. The Bali Musar explained that when it comes to kashrus, you are what you eat. For you're bringing the symbol of impurity into your own body. You are making that thing which is impure one with yourself. You are adding to your composition, your physical composition, and so whatever midah, whatever negative trait, whatever evil value is manifested and represented by that animal, that bird, that fish, the bug that we bring into our own lips, alters our chemical and biological composition, and therefore it alters our moral composition. A sheretz, a bug, is sneaky. It's small, but it can be nefarious. Included on the long list of sheratzim are snakes and scorpions. They creep up on you, unsuspecting victims. They're not forthcoming with their mission. They are menacing, but their ability to punish and do damage lies internally, not with external fangs, but an internal venom. One of the gravest dangers to the moral being is the lack of honesty, is the internal deficiency. The idea that I will not be entirely forthcoming with who I am, that I will pretend and portend to represent something that I am not. The danger of being a sneak, of always scheming, of always looking for an angle, an opportunity, a shortcut. That midah may not seem all too dangerous, but one slight deviation from yashros can set us off on a path of complete dishonesty and corruption. Professor Dan Ariely, in his work, The Honest Truth About Dishonesty, says that many dentists used to prefer the more conservative move of preserving a tooth even though decay is present, before attempting prosthetics and crowns and other more aggressive forms of saving whatever remains. But in his research, he discovered that the purchase of a new machine, an expensive one albeit, which produces crowns on the facility in the office as opposed to having to send out to a lab to produce the crown, might serve as a motivator for a dentist to take a less than conservative approach and in turn a less than honest approach when it comes to the lifespan of a tooth and its prospects. This is because by having purchased a very expensive piece of equipment, they might subconsciously be motivated to justify and rationalize that purchase when they're on the fence regarding a certain tooth. Let's say they don't know whether it could be salvaged, whether it can be used you can use the traditional means of filling in a cavity and drilling, or whether they'll just scrap it and choose to go with a crown. But that decision, when they're on the fence, might be motivated ever so slightly by the purchase of an expensive piece of equipment. It's not to suggest that all dentists behave like this, God forbid. I come from a long line, a family of dentists, and they are among the most honest people that I know. But the idea is that he found that a slight deviation, a little bug, represents nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it can alter a person from being fundamentally yashar, straight and forthcoming, to having ulterior motives in their decision process. Kashrut is not just a code of inexplicable laws. It is not just a dietary plan. It's a reminder that we need to remain far away from even the slightest and smallest motivator and social cue, which threatens to set us off a course of kedusha, and God forbid, to a source of tumah. May we find ourselves to be kadoshim to you, holy in every way, not just in what we eat, but in the values and the ideals we imbibe as we go through our course in life.